She is running. Not from a stranger, but from a man the world once crowned as hip-hop royalty. The hotel hallway stretches endlessly in front of her, until he catches up. A shove, a fall, the cold floor against her skin. For a moment, she doesn't move. And for a moment, the man towering above her isn't a global icon. He's something else entirely. Then the scene changes. No violence, just a pen moving slowly across paper. The handwriting is careful, the words warm. He's a good man, a loving father. The letter pleads for his freedom, painting him as gentle, changed, worthy of mercy. Both images are real. Both are tied to the same name, Sean Diddy Combs. One woman says she survived his violence, another swears by his kindness. Which one is telling the truth, or could both be? When fame is built on power, loyalty, and influence, the truth isn't always what it seems, and it rarely stands alone. This is the collision of two stories, two versions of the same man, and one question the world can't stop asking. Who is the real Diddy when the cameras are gone? Before the headlines and courtrooms, Sean Diddy Combs was the golden face of hip-hop ambition. In the 1990s, he didn't just play the game, he rewrote it. Bad Boy Records became a powerhouse, launching the notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, and Mace into stardom. Every chart-topping hit, every sold-out show cemented his place as a cultural kingmaker. But music was only one part of his empire. He built fashion brands that redefined urban luxury, fragrances that lined department store shelves, and reality shows that put his charisma on display. His reach stretched from the recording studio to the runway, from the Billboard charts to primetime TV. The parties were the stuff of legend, champagne flowing, celebrities shoulder to shoulder, velvet ropes guarding the inner circle. Being invited meant you'd made it. Being close to Diddy meant you were inside the beating heart of the industry. To the public, he was the ultimate success story, a man who rose from Harlem streets to global fame. But away from the lights, there were whispers. Whispers about a temper that could flare, about control that went beyond business, about a man whose power left little room for defiance. For years, those whispers stayed hidden, buried beneath the glitter of his image, until one woman decided to speak. And when she did, the story of Sean Combs would never be the same. Cassie Ventura was 19 when she first crossed paths with Sean Diddy Combs, a rising singer with a voice full of promise, meeting the man who could make dreams happen. Signing with Bad Boy Records should have been the start of everything she'd worked for. Instead, it became the moment her life shifted into a cage she couldn't see at first. In the beginning, there was glamour. Studio sessions, red carpets, exclusive parties. He was attentive, generous, and impossibly connected. But behind the scenes, Cassie says, the attention hardened into control. Her schedule, her friends, even her movements outside the house were monitored. There were parties she didn't want to attend, substances she never wanted to try, and situations she could not refuse without fear of what might follow. She describes a cycle, moments of tenderness quickly drowned by sudden rage. Some nights she hid away in hotel rooms until the bruises faded. Other times there was no hiding, only the quiet endurance of what she called surviving him. In 2018, she says, the cycle reached its breaking point. After telling him she was leaving for good, she claims he forced his way into her home and assaulted her. That night, she says, marked the moment she knew she could never return. Her silence lasted years, but when she finally stepped forward, the flawless image of Sean Combs began to crack, revealing a truth the world wasn't ready to see. If Cassie's voice shook the walls around Sean Combs, Gina Huyn's story made them tremble in a different way. She met Diddy years later, around 2014, stepping into his orbit, when his public image was still untarnished. For a time, she was part of his world, the parties, the travel, the luxury that came with being close to one of the most powerful men in music. But by 2019, her public words painted a darker picture. She alleged physical abuse, being struck, stomped on and humiliated, and spoke of the emotional toll of their relationship. Those claims echoed some of Cassie's, hinting at patterns hidden beneath the surface. When federal prosecutors built their case against Diddy, Gina's name appeared in court filings as Victim 3. Then, in 2024, she did something no one expected. While Diddy sat in custody awaiting sentencing, Gina sent a handwritten letter to the judge. In it, she described a changed man, one who had not been violent in years, one who was a devoted father and deserved to be home with his family. The shift was jarring. How could someone move from public accusations to public defense? Was it forgiveness, fear, loyalty, or something else entirely? Her letter became a flashpoint, dividing public opinion. For some, it was proof that people can change. For others, it was a reminder of how power can bend even the strongest voices. By the fall of 2024, the whispers had become headlines, and the headlines had become a full-blown legal storm. In September, federal agents moved in. Sean Diddy Combs was arrested and charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Accusations that, if proven, could keep him behind bars for decades. The courtroom became a stage of its own. Prosecutors painted a portrait of a man who used his wealth and influence to control not just careers, but lives. Defense attorneys pushed back, calling the charges exaggerated, the witnesses unreliable, the narrative one-sided. Through it all, the tension never broke. Outside, cameras flashed as supporters and critics crowded the courthouse steps. Inside, the air was heavy. Every word from the witness stand felt like it could tip the balance. Then, in July 2025, the verdict came. Guilty of soliciting prostitution, not guilty on the two most serious counts. The maximum sentence for that single conviction still loomed large, up to 20 years. For Diddy, it was a partial victory and a devastating blow all at once. His legal team pushed for bail while awaiting sentencing, citing his ties to family and community. But the judge's words cut deep. A danger to the community and a pattern of disregard for the law. Bail denied. The man who once commanded stages and boardrooms now waited in a cell for the day the gavel would fall again, this time to decide how many years of his life would be taken away. For years, the public saw only the polished image, the chart-topping mogul, the business visionary, the man who could turn any venture into gold. But behind that image, former insiders whisper about a web of protection so tight it seemed impenetrable. There were the loyal employees who looked the other way, the industry peers who stayed silent, the friends in high places who smoothed over trouble before it reached the headlines. Some say this network was built on loyalty, others call it fear wrapped in opportunity. One story stands out, a violent altercation caught on hotel security cameras, allegedly bought and buried for $50,000. The footage would resurface years later, shocking the world. But at the time, it simply disappeared. Hotel staff were urged to keep quiet. Witnesses vanished from the conversation. It wasn't just about silencing voices, it was about shaping reality. In an industry where access is currency, few were willing to risk exile from Diddy's empire by speaking out. But empires built on silence can't last forever. The trial shattered the illusion that the truth could be controlled indefinitely. The whispers became testimony. The buried stories clawed their way to the surface. And the man who once seemed untouchable now stood exposed, the network that shielded him unraveling in the harsh light of public scrutiny. For decades, Sean "Diddy" Combs had been more than a music mogul. He was a symbol of aspiration. His name meant success, his face meant influence, and his presence could elevate anyone standing beside him. But after the trial, that image cracked beyond repair. Brand partnerships vanished almost overnight. Fashion lines pulled his name from campaigns, liquor brands cut ties, and streaming platforms quietly shifted his music out of the spotlight. It wasn't just the corporate world. Longtime friends and collaborators began to distance themselves, some offering carefully worded statements, others disappearing without a word. Fans, too, were divided. Some refused to believe the allegations, clinging to the image of the man who'd soundtracked their youth. Others saw the verdict and the testimonies as undeniable proof of a darker truth. Social media became a battlefield, every post about him igniting hundreds of arguments. The parties that once defined his lifestyle, glittering, crowded, loud, were replaced by silence. The man who commanded rooms with ease now sat in one he couldn't leave, waiting for the final judgment on how many years of his life would be taken away. In the end, it wasn't just the law that had caught up with him. It was the loss of something far greater, the public faith that had fueled his empire. And once that's gone, no verdict can bring it back. The rise and fall of Sean "Diddy" Combs is more than a celebrity scandal. It's a cautionary tale about power without limits. For years, his success seemed untouchable, his influence unshakable. Yet behind the music videos, the award shows, and the million-dollar deals, there were voices. Quiet at first, then louder, warning that something was wrong. Cassie's accusations, Gina's reversal, the testimonies in court, they reveal a truth that's not clean or simple. It's a tangle of loyalty, fear, ambition, and survival. In the end, the world is left with two competing portraits, the visionary who built an empire and the man accused of tearing lives apart. His sentencing will close one legal chapter, but the questions linger. How many stories remain untold? How many powerful figures are still shielded by networks of silence? And what does justice really mean when the damage has already been done? The lesson is clear. Fame can amplify talent, but it can also magnify harm. Power can inspire, but without accountability, it corrodes everything it touches. No amount of success can erase the harm done behind closed doors, and no legacy is safe if built on the suffering of others. What about you? Do you believe redemption is possible here, or is this a fall from which there is no return? Share your thoughts below, because your voice matters. And remember, silence isn't neutral. It can protect the guilty just as easily as it can shield the innocent.